And welcome, everybody, to the Mental Health Hour. I am Derek, and as always, joining me on my left over here is my beautiful co-host, Miss Kat Daniels. How are you?
I am pretty good today. How are you?
You know what? Not too bad. Not too bad at all.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, things are slowly starting to, it just happens. I mean, things are what they are.
You should talk about it.
Talk about
If I have
what?
to talk about my deep issues, you should talk about yours.
I will talk about my deep issues. We're going to talk about my deep issues with my friend today.
Okay, good. Because I'm not your friend.
Oh, that hurts.
Mm-hmm. I see how it is.
Yeah, but we do have a special guest with us today.
We do.
We do. And I'm actually quite excited about this guest.
Me too.
Because not only is he a former guest of my other show, Suck Podcast,
Right.
he's also a good friend of mine.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm kind of excited about it. So he is a world-renowned medium and psychic.
Right.
He's also a very, 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 very knowledgeable and just an overall good life coach and just a good guy. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him on now so we can get this party started.
Okay.
So, without further ado, please welcome to the show, Mr. William Constantine. Hey, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
So, how's everything with you?
Huh?
So, how's everything with you?
Everything's always wonderful. I'm above ground. Nothing to complain about.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you seemed pretty happy when we talked for 2 hours yesterday.
Yeah, well, I'm always happy when I'm on my game and I'm helping somebody, so that's...
Good. What'd you guys talk about?
Well,
you want to talk about it here, or is that like top
no,
secret?
we can talk about whatever we want. I do want to go ahead and mention one thing. So, when him and I first met, and I didn't tell him this because this happened last night, one of the things that he told me was that whatever I put out into the universe, I'm going to get back. So if I put out nothing but negativity, I'm going to get nothing back but negativity.
Right.
And last night I had my therapy session, my weekly therapy.
Yeah.
And she said the exact same thing.
Don't you love it when the universe just like hits you with
So
the
it's
same
like
thing over and over?
And I told her that. I'm like, so I have this friend. And she's like, see, now you have multiple people telling the exact same thing. So it's like, okay, I guess I need to start listening.
Mm.
So I guess your advice isn't going in vain there, Ed William.
Oh, good. You know, a lot of times people just ignore what I say, so... But...
Yeah,
I think that happens in general with advice. Like, people ask for advice, and they want your opinion, but they don't really want to take it. They just want your opinion.
Yeah, even if they're paying for it, they still don't listen. So
right, exactly.
Yeah, because you had mentioned before that, I mean, even with whether you're doing a psychic reading or even doing life coaching sessions, sometimes they'll pay for it and they're not ready to receive that message, regardless of whether or not they're paying for it.
Right.
Mm.
Which astounds me which really does.
Does it? Really? It astounds you, huh?
It does. Because I thought I was the only one.
Oh, I see. So you're just like reveling in the fact that you're like everybody else, basically.
But hey, isn't this all point of the show is to let people know they're not alone in their daily struggles?
Oh yeah, totally. 100%.
Exactly.
Yeah. I started the Teachable Soul podcast because, part of the reason was because I was thinking about, I had heard about life coaches and I was thinking about hiring one, but there were so many of them. And I didn't know what the qualifications were or like who was qualified for what and who wasn't. And I had no idea where to even start. And so one of the reasons that I started the Teachable Soul was because I was like, I just need somebody to, like, I'm here to absorb information. I just need somebody to spit information at me and tell me, like life coach me, but I don't know who to hire. And so I was like, I'm just going to start a podcast where I talk to life coaches and get their input. And it worked out quite well.
So with that being said, that was actually gonna. So it's funny that you mentioned that, Kat, because I was actually gonna say. So for people who can't access you, and and they're in a completely different part of the country, how do you suggest they begin looking for a life coach?
Who, me?
Yeah, you. Yeah.
I mean, everybody's accessible now because you have Zoom and Skype and all sorts of ways to do it. But I think the thing is it's a matter of realizing what it is that you're looking for in a life coach. Like, the life coach can only help you if you really know what it is that your issues are, like, and what you're trying to get from the coaching session. Like, I have a whole intake that basically goes through, like, what are your goals in the life coaching session? What is it that you want to get out of it? So on and so forth. Like, there's a whole intakes form that I give people, so that it helps me know what subjects of their life that we're focusing on. Because some people just want to talk about love and relationships, and they don't want to talk about anything else, or they just want to talk about their career, and a lot of it all merges together, because if you have conflict in one, it ripples into another.
Gotcha. So, how do you, when dealing with anything, how do you build a life coaching session for a client? What goes into that?
Well, that's also, I use my psychic ability with that as well. So, like, with me, you get like life coach on crack, because I'm, because, like, I don't. A lot of people use life coaches as though you're a therapist, and life coaching is interactive, whereas therapy is more you're talking through your own problems. And whereas life coaching is trying to set goals and milestones and trying to get you, to recondition your mind to believe different things and so on and so forth. Because there's everything that is blocking you is because of a particular belief that you're holding in your paradigm, right? So then if you, so the first part of the life coaching aspect is really trying to identify what those beliefs are and then where they came from. And then from there, how we can replace them with a better belief system. So it really is customizable to each client. The other thing is as a psychic, you can't lie to me. So I'm already on the inside of your wall. So it's just a matter of me helping you break it down from the inside.
Yeah, that's one of the major reasons I really prefer life coaches to, like, talk therapy or going to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist or whatever, is because there's action. Whereas, I mean, I've been to psychologists since I was a kid because my parents were divorced and it was court ordered at the time and blah, blah, blah. And there's just no action. You're literally just sitting there explaining your problems to the person so that they can better understand them. But it doesn't ever feel like, it feels like a hamster on a wheel, and it irritates the crap out of me.
Yeah,
I'm like, this isn't going anywhere.
Well, yeah, because a lot of times in a regular traditional therapy, the therapist is just jotting down notes and shaking their head, like an acknowledgement, and you're like, "What the fuck?" Like, I'm trying.
Like, I'm acknowledging that all of this exists. I need you to tell me what to do next.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because they're just waiting for you to, come across something, or then they'll go, "Well, how'd that make you feel?" Or and it's like, well, how the hell do you think it made me feel?
Exactly.
I mean, obviously, I'm bitching about it now, years later, so it still doesn't. So I think that's the thing is, whereas life coaching, they understand that, and then we just try to help you move through it, but also recondition the mind to believe something different. So that's it. And whatever tools you use, some people use vision boards or whatever, or hypnotherapy or whatever.
So I'm sorry to, like, take over here, but, like, are you, I spoke with a person one time who is a coach, but also she is trained in rapid transformational therapy. Have you heard of that?
No.
No. Okay.
Yeah, no.
So
Sounds
it
nice.
uses, yeah, right. So it uses hypnotherapy and cognitive behavioral therapy, as well as talk therapy, like all at the same time, in order to attempt to retrain the brain, basically. What?
No,
Do you have an opinion? Oh, okay.
I'm just listening. I always
So
have. I always have an opinion, but go on.
okay. So it I mean it uses all those things, but I wondered if you were trained in anything like that as well, or do you just simply use your life coaching abilities plus your psychic abilities?
Well, I mean, I've taken courses in different aspects after like NLP and stuff like that. But it was like the thing is like for me, I only did that because I knew the certifications would help get in the door for certain people,
Right.
right? Like whereas for me, my own life was shit. So I transformed and transcended my own life. So if I could do that, I've already helped others, and I mean I've had people that have come to me because they were suicidal or whatever the situation is, it's everything's work outable.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I know we talked about this on the other show, but most likely people haven't watched that episode yet, or they're watching this one. But at the same time, they might have forgotten. So talk about what your past was that led you to this point.
My past that led me to this. Well,
Yeah.
part
Or
of
like
it.
how did you transform your own life?
Yeah, because I mean, you said your life was shit. I mean, I know that story. Kat knows that story because she watched the episode. But what transpired to make your life shit?
Well, so in 1981, I was born.
Me too.
To a drug addicted, paranoid schizophrenic, and she subsequently loaned me out for sexual favors so that she could get her drug fixes. I was bounced around foster home to foster home. I was in 10 different foster homes. I was molested in all of them. I mean, it just went on and on. I got adopted and later disowned. I went through divorce. I ate out of garbage cans for 3 years when I was homeless. And now here I am on a show talking to you guys.
Mm.
That's the accelerated version.
That's the accelerated version. No. Yeah, because it's there's a lot there to it.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Kat?
I didn't actually watch the show, to be honest with you. So
I thought you did. Okay, I thought you
watched
did.
a portion of it, but the part that I came in on was after you had actually told your story, William.
Okay.
Yeah. So what was what happened that allowed you to change all of that? Because that's some pretty deep shit. Like, is there like a cataclysmic moment or?
I think you get to a point in life where you're tired of being angry, and I think I realized that only one person attends a pity party, and even that person doesn't want to be there. So I stopped handing out invites, and I started looking within for the answers, and I started asking better questions, and I created a vision board. Like I linked all of my negative experiences with 5 positive outcomes. So even me being molested, I linked it, and then I retrained my mind. So when I thought of my past, I saw it in a different way.
Oh.
And so that's how I started. But and then I just think it's after a while you get tired of the endless mindless fighting of everything, and so you try to figure, okay, why is this shit not working? Because the common denominator is me. But most people don't get there. And I think that's the biggest thing is you have to really focus on first accepting your role and why you're getting the results that you're getting. It may not be my fault that obviously I was molested or that I had those experiences, but how I chose to perceive those experiences and then subsequently respond to them is entirely my choice.
Oh, yeah. So I would love to go deeper on that because, I mean, multiple reasons. One, I think it would help other people to realize like what needs to happen in order to get to that point for them. And we can use me as an example. Actually, I would like to use me as an example because, for instance, my parents were divorced when I was super young, and they fought like cats and dogs for me, or over me the entire time until I was like 13 or 14. And then it all just stopped, which I never viewed any of that as a negative thing. People thought that my parents being divorced negatively affected me. And I'm like, I mean, the way that they were fighting when they were divorced probably just means that it was a really good thing they got divorced. So I'm grateful that they got divorced and didn't try to stick it out for me. Like, that was ridiculous, the things that they did to each other. And it would have been even more, horrible had they have been in the same household the entire time. I can only imagine. And so I never saw it as a negative thing. And then I never saw really my childhood as a negative thing. Like, I grew up not terribly poor, but not super wealthy by any means. And my parents never abused me by any means, I don't think. I mean, probably like mentally or some crap like that, but I don't know. I don't even know, what that would be. But when I got married, one of the things that I've been recently dealing with is that, so my husband and I had a tumultuous relationship in the very beginning, super angry and arguing and all kinds of abuse other than physical. There was no physical abuse, which is probably the only reason that we stick around with each other at the time. But lately I've been trying to figure out because I've threatened or said I was going to leave like multiple times. I've worked it out to, I have this thought in my head about every 6 months ish or so. And so now I'm trying to figure out if that has anything to do with me being raised by a single mom. And I just feel like somehow I can't, like, I'm telling myself the story that I can't just be married, basically, or if it's just simply due to our past history where for years and years and years, we fought like cats and dogs and we're angry with each other and, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
So my point is, like, I've now that we've been married for 11 years and had this tumultuous relationship and we're both healing the things within ourselves. I'm just, I guess, trying to decide now, like what, because again, the common denominator is me. So what is what? Like, how do you decide reality, I guess, at that point? Like, what was it for you? Well, you know what I mean? Like, you tell yourself a story, but sometimes that's not always what reality is, right?
Well, I think in your situation, the first thing that you want to really identify is the relationship working now,
Mm-hmm.
and if so, why? And then because we have to figure out, because like if you're saying that you were with somebody for 11 years and it was a shit relationship, the fact that your mom was single is more likely why you stayed in a shit relationship for 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
The real question is if you want 11 more years of that,
mm-hmm.
or if you guys are actually going to be able to change, and if you see significant change now, because
mm-hmm.
obviously if you're getting to a place where every 6 months you're debating about whether or not you should run,
mm-hmm.
that's your own intuition is telling you to run.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something in the relationship that's not working. But the fact is that it could have been damaged. But the thing is people can fall back in love with each other. So the question is are you guys in love with each other, or are you guys just tolerating each other?
Mm-hmm. No, we're not tolerating each other anymore. We certainly were for a very long time, but not anymore.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
that's actually interesting, William, because what you just said kind of speaks to me a little bit. So from what I understand, maybe I'm wrong. It sounds like you just said, and not maybe necessarily in Kat's situation, but in any situation similar to this, that the only reason why she stayed in the 11-year marriage is because she doesn't want to be alone like her mom. I mean, is that what you were saying?
Well, yeah, I'm saying like in some instances, it depends. It depends on each person. But in some instances where somebody has witnessed being a single mom, or they witness that struggle, and then they find themselves in a relationship. They want to hold on to that because they don't want to become single again, right? Like, so it's just a natural thing that when you come from a single parent household and then you have a relationship, you also try to hold on to that, especially if you have kids or if there's other things that you guys are sharing, and you don't want to really let go of that. So you start fighting for it, but sometimes you fight with each other instead of allow for the relationship just to blossom.
Yeah. So in the beginning, I mean, that was 100%. When I was 18 years old, I remember before I ever was, dating seriously or got married to my husband, I remember having a conversation with my mom where I flat out told her I thought that my parents just didn't try hard enough because they were married for less than a year before they divorced. And I told her, I was like, I think you guys just didn't try hard enough. You didn't go to counseling. There were multiple things that you could have done that you didn't do that I feel like could have possibly helped you. I don't know. Obviously, we can't go back in history and make it over again, but I just feel like if I had been in the same situation, I would have tried different things first before I just went to divorce. And so, yes, 100%, even when I was married after the first year, because the first year of our marriage was really our worst. And even my husband acknowledges that. But even after our first year of marriage, I was still, digging my heels in basically. And like, I'm going to try counseling and we're going to make this work. Like we're going to fix it, period, because that's just how it is.
I also think though that, like, as a child, if your parents are doing it right, you shouldn't know what they've done to try to rectify the situation. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, because you shouldn't know if they're going to marriage and family therapy. You shouldn't know certain things like that because that's for them to work out, and the child should never witness, basically the discord in the relationship. But obviously you did, and so your own impression was they didn't try hard enough, but you don't really know how hard she did try or what they did behind closed doors. Like, because they could have had the same struggle that you had for 11 years or whatever.
Well, so no. There were there were different factors, and I'm aware of this now, but there were different factors before I was even born that ultimately led to their demise. My mother had PTSD from a previous relationship that she hadn't even sort of attempted to heal from. And that was a huge factor, for her in general. And, honestly, probably for him too. He probably had PTSD from a couple of different relationships. And mental health back in the day, like seeking help for mental health or even, I don't even think that PTSD was like a known factor back in the 80s, Yeah. Sorry. So, I think that both of them were mostly just in a position where they didn't know what they didn't know. And they probably didn't even know to go and seek out a marriage counselor, because I don't even think that was a huge deal in the 80s, and we were in a small town. I mean, there were a lot of different factors.
And that's interesting too, about the PTSD thing, because in talking to my therapist, which by the way, my therapist is very much life coach-esque versus a therapist,
which is awesome.
Which I do appreciate. Which is one of the the benefits of BetterHelp. But the thing is, like, her and I recently discovered, and she can't obviously legally diagnose me because she's not an actual psychiatrist, but she thinks that I do have PTSD from my previous marriage. Because I was abused mentally and physically. And and for the longest time I never acknowledged it. And for the first we've been together now 13 years. So for the first 10 years, except for the last 2 or 3, before I realized that before I actually started seeking help for it, she put up with a lot more than she really should have. And it's one of those things where, I just never realized it. I mean, I knew it, but I never realized it. Especially like, she would do little things like here and there that would remind me of my ex. And it just drove me up a wall. And it wasn't anything that was like a personality trait or anything like that. It was just a common everyday thing that somebody did, but she did it
the way they do the dishes or something like that.
Exactly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it just
like a trigger.
set me off in ways I can't even describe. And especially since she's still around, because we have a child together, and I have to hear from her about money and this and that. All these things are still there, and it's like I can't get rid of her no matter what. And she is the one person, and I don't give a fuck if she's watching the show. I don't care, but she is the one person in this entire world that I'm afraid of. On a physical level, on a mental level, on every level. And I cannot escape that in any which way, shape, or form. And that is the toughest thing for me to admit.
Oh, but you can.
But I did.
No,
I'm saying I did admit it, but I wish I could. I don't know how.
No, but you said that you can't escape it now. And I think you can, because man. So I was afraid of my husband, and part of that was not his fault. Part of that was my view of men in general, that, whether it was logical or not logical, or, something that was forced upon me basically by other people's opinions, whatever the case may be. I had it. I was afraid of men. For a very long time. And so on top of that, with the way the first year of my husband and I's marriage went, it just made it 10 times worse. And so, it's just, I personally, I have told him this, like, I had to get to a point where I either have to not care, because the worst he could possibly do to me, basically, or would do to me, is get mad and yell at me. And I have to realize that that's not that big of a deal. And I had to change, the story that I was telling myself about all of that in my own head in order to fix it or stop it from making me feel that way, because it was just me. It was just the way I felt. No, there are many people who get yelled at or get, have people get angry with them or upset with them or disappointed in them that don't have the reaction that I do. Period.
Yeah,
they just don't.
But I mean, realistically, like, who gives a shit? Like, you're not here to like appease everybody.
No.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that people struggle with. Clients struggle with it, like celebrity clients. Celebrity clients always want to make sure that like their fans adore them, and so they're able to like put their privacy on hold and be accosted while they're walking through the mall, or they're doing certain things in their day-to-day life that people take for granted.
Right.
And like, I think that people running up to the celebrities asking for autographs aren't necessarily thinking like, well, how would I feel if I was out with my kids and I was shopping and I was doing this, and then somebody ran over to me on a consistent basis, to get an autograph or whatever. Like,
right.
But I think the thing is like, people like to hold on to shit too. Like, they like carrying around this baggage and from their past. And I think the hardest thing that people have to learn to do is just let it go. Because it's in the past. You can't change it. Like, what happened.
Right.
But you could change your perception of the past. You could retell the story in a more positive way, and you could heal from it. But and when you do that, you're able to your responses subsequently change. Because if you change your belief about your past, then so like everything you do is because of the belief systems that you have in your paradigm. Right. So like 90 some odd % of what we do is it's all subconscious. We're on autopilot.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is like, when you change those beliefs, your responses and perceptions change as well. So from that standpoint, like, you look at things like, take an issue that you want to work on, and then, we could work through it now, but like, I think the thing is it's like, you have to identify the limiting belief, and then you just switch it around. because no matter what happens, there's always a positive way to see something and there's always a negative way to see something. It's far easier to see the negative because that's just how humans work, and so like they just automatically identify with the negative stuff because they're used to negative shit happening. But ordinarily, you could still look at the positive side too. That's why you have like totally optimistic people. But not that they don't have struggles, but I think that's a difference. Is we also project what a story onto other people that we don't necessarily know is remotely true. Like you could see somebody driving around in a Lamborghini or and pulling up to a mansion, and you could think, well, wow, that person's really successful, and this, that, and the other, and you don't know that they could be credit card broke, right? Like everything could be all on charge cards, and their credit could be crap now, and they could be going through a complete struggle that you don't even realize. But just because you see them driving a nice car or having the quote unquote ideal life, you suddenly project a story on them, which may not be their story, and I've always find it interesting, like how they end up getting into those types of things, and more importantly, why the hell you're motivated to buy a car that's so outrageous,
Yeah.
But because I think, for $200 and something thousand, I could think of a lot of things to buy or to people to help with that amount of money,
Yeah.
Yeah. To buy a house for that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, one of the things that I had to do was just to basically, you can either, for me personally, I had to just stop caring that he was going to get mad, period. Because some of the things that he used to get mad about I knew were insignificant in the long run. And he just hadn't gotten to a point where he could understand that yet. And I had to understand that and realize that I just had to stop caring that he was going to get mad in some instances, because it wasn't going to do anybody any good, me caring that he was going to get mad. And I just had to basically ignore it and be like, sorry you feel that way, because I'm not responsible for his feelings ultimately. Or mostly the way he reacts when he feels a certain way. And he and I still have this conversation multiple times, because in different situations, different things can happen. But ultimately what it comes down to is I'm just not responsible for his reactions, and you're not responsible for your ex's reactions. So if she reacts in a toxic way, that's not for you to care about. That's on her. That's how she chose to react. And she's an adult and needs to own it and figure out how to not react that way. And if she doesn't want to admit that she's reacting in a toxic way, then that's still not your problem. It's, ultimately, it's ultimately in her life causing her more grief and angst than it should in yours. Because if she's going to continue to act like that, she's going to continue to get negative results, basically.
Well, I know for a fact my ex, I don't know for a fact but I pretty much know that she's, still hasn't found anybody else. And it's been, 13, 14 years that her and I have been separated. And yeah, because she is one of those people that likes to have ultimate control. And she controlled every little bit of my life, to the point where I was basically just, for lack of a better word, her bitch. And she always lashed out irrationally. Like I said, I got hit multiple times, constantly verbally abused. And she did it in such a way that she would beat me down to my lowest point and then bring me up just enough to put a smile on my face and then shoot it down again. And it was a constant struggle. And it was just horrible. But it's one of those things where now it's like I look back on it now and I realize I have all these beautiful people around me that don't do that. I got you, I've got Maddie, I've got Christina, I've got all these lovely, women in my life. And for the longest time, I was scared of women. Like you were saying, you were scared of men. And now that's all I surround myself with is women, with the exception of William and a few other people. But
hey, I'm a guy that thinks like a woman, so,
so he doesn't count.
Yeah.
One thing I love about William though like yesterday during our conversation. And I don't know if he acts like this. I don't know if you act like this during your life coaching sessions, but it was really interesting to me. You kind of use a what's the word? Reverse psychology method on some things.
I love that.
So him and I were discussing ways to to make my podcast better, and to get more reactions, and better monetization and stuff like that.
Sure.
And one of the things he suggested, I was like, I'm not really sure if I should do that because of this situation. I'm not going to say what it was, but he's like, fine, don't do it. It's your show. I was like, maybe I should. And he's like, I'm just trying to give you help. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're right. My bad.
Yeah.
And it sometimes it takes that hard, because again, I'm so afraid of being led in the wrong direction because of the stuff that she did, and it carries off to me in my friend spaces too, and I hate
professional life.
And my professional life and everything. So it's like, and now because of that, I almost like feel like I want complete control because I had given up for such a long time.
Right.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like sometimes I just need a real punch in the face, and when him and I talk, he does a good job at that.
What's something that makes me like super sad sometimes to think about is that like people who are abusive, they do that because that's what they think is normal, and that's the way that they were taught. So if they are abusive now in their adult age, it makes me so sad to think about that as a child they grew up like that basically, and they do that because that's what they were taught, and that just breaks my heart every time I think about it.
Especially knowing that she's raising our daughter by herself.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, I mean, it's just, and the other side of it is like my father was, he specifically said that he was not abused, but like he was locked in closets. He was tied to a porch. So I mean, like, but like back in the day, there's so many blurred lines, because we've always believed certain ways for so long, like spanking, we believed for so long was just the way to do things. But
to that end, I do think there's so much control that parents used to have over their kids, to teach them right from wrong, or to guide them in some way. And some of it was a slap on the hand or a spanking or what, not a physical beating. But now parents, their hands are tied. They can't touch their kids without, the threat of law enforcement coming in or and that's the thing. It's not a matter of like parents need to beat their kids, but sometimes there was something about that was said for being like just popped in the mouth if you were, talking back, or, like not to the point like I was where it was like bloody and stuff like that. But like, I think, there is something to that. Like there's a shock factor that gets them to like, change their state of mind. Now there's a lot of ways that you could do that. But I think the other thing is like the only thing that you could really control in your life is your perception and then your responses to that. So if you don't like the results you're getting, you have to look at those two things and then figure out what it is that like is really working or not working. Like in Derek's case, it sounds like he was in like a more domestic violence situation, just with the woman being the perpetrator.
Right.
Which back in the day was probably extremely rare. But I mean, it's far more common than people think, but the thing is like, there's not a lot of men speaking out that way against, a woman abuser. Whereas like, it's far easier if a guy is doing it. But it's the same thing. Like she was grooming you psychologically, like by knocking you down. Oh, you got a little one.
Yep. Hey.
So, and that's the thing is this, like she was knocking you down, like from an emotional and mental standpoint, and then building you up to what she wanted. But now that she doesn't have you, her life is obviously not good. But I think jealousy is the greatest form of misdirected admiration, right? So like she's obviously looking at your life now and you have things that she doesn't have. And so she's obviously frustrated and, distraught because your life is better without her, and she didn't want that.
No, she definitely did not. Absolutely not. And that's one of the biggest things. It's just...
Yeah, people with control issues don't want you to go on and be better without them.
Yeah.
Sucks.
It really does.
Yep.
So, when presented with situations like that, William, how do you, like the things that her and I are talking about right now, where do you stand on that kind of stuff? And how do you coach somebody through something like that?
As far as what? I mean, you're both talking about two different things. So I mean, they're both relationship.
Do you just mean
trauma.
Relationship issues, or what do you mean?
Let's talk about the abuse stuff first.
Okay.
After the fact, say for instance, like someone like me, like, hypothetically speaking, I'm dealing with it in my own way, and I have people that, so I'm not asking for, but like if somebody else like, came to you with my situation, how would you, coach them to not let the past affect them?
Well, first you have to figure out why it's affecting them now, but the first real key point is to realize that they weren't at fault, right? Like, because the biggest thing with people that were abused in any way, they tried to take blame for that, right? And you don't know what you don't know, right? So like at the time when I was being molested, for example, I didn't realize that that was a bad thing until somebody told me that that was a bad thing. And then all of a sudden, what I saw as being like some type of love exchange, it became now something that was not so good, right? So like, it changes your perception. But I think in a domestic violence situation, it's also a matter of how deep it goes, right? Like how long they were in it and how deep their conditioning goes. To be able to deprogram their mind, because that's what it is. It's programming. So, and you have to get to the root of the issue and the root of the belief, and you have to really get to their core of their person. So for me, being a psychic, I obviously know who you are on a soul level. So coaching you back to that is a little bit easier than if I was just say a life coach that didn't know who you were or didn't and was trying to get you to identify with who you were, because you don't know. Because when you're programmed that way and you're groomed in a particular way, like you really do self-identify with the new belief system that you were given by your perpetrator. It's why people have, Stockholm syndrome, for example, or, like it's just they started, identifying with their abductors or, and then all of a sudden they think that it's, or even in therapy, you can have transference, which is where because I know stuff about you that your people in your life don't know, suddenly you think that like you love me or that there's some type of romantic relationship. And it happens a lot where people do get transference. I don't know if it happens so much in regular therapy, but I know it does in life coaching and stuff. Or even psychic readings. I've had people ask me to marry him.
I love you, William.
Jesus. Well,
well, I know for me,
it's the blue eyes.
It is. We share that. So plus we're born the same year. So we're we at least are the same age. For me, it was more about, and I guess this is gonna sound something, but it was more about my masculinity being taken away. Because at the time, I was a professional wrestler and a pro MMA fighter, and to know that I could fight back, and I could have ended it, in a way, such a way, but because I was so fearful of this person that wasn't stronger than me, that wasn't anything other than just mentally, and physically abusive, that I was scared of my own shadow. And to know that I could go into a ring and knock anybody out or go to a, whatever and fight my, ways to the biggest battles ever. But to know that and this sounds horrible, and I don't mean it like this, so please don't give me backlash. For a woman to be able to do that to me in such a way that it stripped away who I was as a person, and it's not like that was it could have been anybody, but it was at the time that's just who it was. So it's difficult.
No, I think that's 100% like how most men feel in those situations, and that's why a lot of them don't speak out about it, right?
Yeah, and I think like first we have to realize as men, women are far more intelligent than we are, right? So like, yep. They're using more of their brain. Their brain is far developed at an earlier age before before ours is even done developing. They've already finished. And so the thing is like women tend to, in this situation, what it sounds like to me is maybe your ex took on the role of her father in that situation, like like where she went into more of the sacred masculine rather than the divine feminine. And when a woman does that, it's very hard for them to surrender that masculine role, because there's power in the masculine role, but there's even more power in a divine feminine role, because there's nothing that a guy in love won't do for the woman that he loves. So, and if a woman asks you like to jump and you love her, right, the answer is like, how high, like, or what am I doing? Like, so you would jump in front of a bus, so the thing is it doesn't matter. But like, women find vulnerability as a weakness, but it's really one of the greatest strengths that humanity has, because if you're truly vulnerable, you're able to like, swim in the sea of infinite expression with each other and explore the depths and heights of one another. So I think that's the point of like a loving relationship. But people fear love because we love in conditions here. And what happens is, in a traditional relationship, a lot of times a guy starts dating a girl, then he experiences the conquest where he gets laid, and then suddenly he stops caring as much. He stops asking those probing questions. He stops asking. I suppose after laid, I shouldn't say probing, but I think the thing is, but I think like he does. He stops asking the questions like that to try to get to know who she is on a deeper level. And so for a woman, they then start feeling unattractive or like you've lost interest. And so, then now it becomes a struggle for you to try to regain that, because you've disconnected. And so, and that's why communication is important. Not texting. Like, I see this shit when I go out into the into the real world, and people are texting and they're on a date with their wife or their whatever, and they're texting each other or they're on their cell phones, and nobody's talking at the table. Like, they're just and it's like, what the hell? Like, have a conversation with each other. Like, that's the whole point of date night. The fact that you have to set a date night is retarded. But I think every day should be a date night. But, and you shouldn't really ever fall out of love with somebody, right? Like, you should always want to strive in your relationship. Your goal should be to try to make each day better, but always, the same as the first day that you guys met each other, right? Like, so that first day is the precipice, is the jumping off point. And then you just strive to increase it. Mm-hmm. As time goes on,
like you can't lower the bar from there.
Yeah, and you always have to ask more questions. Like, you could never ask too many questions to know somebody's like inside and out. Mm-hmm. So you could spend a lifetime asking questions and getting to know them and authentically listening, which means listening from your heart if you're listening to a female, because like men listen with logic, and we try to solve problems. So here's a tip. Women don't always want you to solve their problem.
We can solve them. It's okay.
Yeah. They will vent to you. So it's okay to ask, like, are you just venting or do you want feedback?
Oh, 100%.
You know, because a lot of times if you try solving some shit that they don't want solved, they just want to vent.
They're going to get mad at you.
Yeah. You're going to be in a doghouse for another 10 days. And then it's just like, you know, and nobody can give silent treatment like a woman, right? So it's like, you know.
No.
So I don't know. It's just, and that's the thing. So like in relationships, it's just, you know, and I find like, because women don't know that men are naturally prone to solve an issue. So like if you, because we want to alleviate whatever's burdening you, right? So that's our goal. So if you're coming to us and you're saying like, hey, here's a pain point for me, our natural reaction is, how do I alleviate this? And if we try to do that and you're like, no, I didn't want you to fucking solve it, I just wanted to listen, then all of a sudden we're like, oh shit, you know, like, and so then we stop making that effort. Eventually you just condition us to stop doing that. But you know, the better question is just to ask, like,
but if you ask, right?
Yeah, is this a venting session, or can I like provide feedback?
Right.
But because
that's okay.
Yeah, and then that's okay. But most people don't know to do that.
No.
Yeah,
they do not.
So I mean, here's something that kind of relates to the subject and kind of doesn't. But I guess it kind of more for you, Kat. So Christina was on a you know, some group that she's in yesterday, and you know, her and I have been having some conversations back and forth about you know, as years go on and stuff like that, you know, things change. And one of the things that somebody was talking about, as far as, you know, and he said it himself, you know, setting date nights, or, you know, it's kind of stupid, but at the same time, not really, but yeah. And one of the comments was this: we have regular date nights and understand that old relationship energy, the love is deep, but not all that exciting anymore. It's okay because we still connect and have an attraction and a passion on a whole different level. So it's like when you're, you know, you get that first, you know, that new relationship energy that happens right when you first start with a relationship. Over time, it turns into old relationship energy, and then it's completely different. And you just kind of lose that sense of umph. And it's a matter of, how do you get that umph back? And realizing once you'll never get that same umph back, you can find a new umph. I said umph way too many times.
I'm lost now.
Oh, okay. Well, I get it.
Okay, so then maybe you can explain it better than me there, William.
So basically, from what it sounds like they reached a point of their relationship where they feel like there's a deep love, but they're not necessarily as
passionate.
As passionate or active in love as they were before. Because no, the thing is like, to that degree though, the key point is they're of an awareness that they're not there, right? Like they know that they love each other and they're not yet fully back to where they want to be, right? So that's the first step, is like to actually acknowledge that you guys still love each other, because most people get to this point and you end up like getting divorced, or you end up making an extreme decision without necessarily, you know, playing it out. But it seems like in this situation, they understand that they want to get back to having more passion in their relationship. So I'll let Kat answer it, and then I'll answer it.
I really feel like you shouldn't ever stop talking to someone the way that you do when you first date them. Like when you're first dating someone, you know, and if they're doing something that if you ask for someone's attention and you're like, hey, I really need you to pay attention to this right now, and they are doing something else and they're still distracted, the way that you respond to them, I believe, the way that most people respond to them when they're dating and the way that they respond to them after they've been married for 10, 20, 50 years, whatever, are two completely different ways. And I don't think that the way that you respond to them when you're dating should ever deviate or change. You should always be like, honey, can you please, I'm asking for your attention. Can you please just pay attention real quick? I just need you for like 5 minutes. And you should speak kindly to them in those ways. But I feel like a lot of times people get comfortable in relationships And I feel like there are a lot of and this isn't just for romantic relationships. I mean, even in familial relationships or friendships, people just assume that that person's always going to be there somehow, like subconsciously, and they rely on them to a point that they always assume that they're going to be there no matter what. And they forget little things like that. They forget to, not lose their temper so quickly, basically. But that's my opinion.
Yeah. So now if they're in this relationship and they obviously want to return to being more passionate or whatever, like the biggest thing is they have to start making the effort, right? Like, so that means talk more. That means, undivided attention. That means getting back to the basics, like going on dates, taking walks in the woods, like doing things that you both can disconnect from other things and reconnect with each other. So many times we live in a society where there's so much stimulus around us, and so like it's very easy for a husband to grab his cell phone and to be looking into the cell phone instead of paying attention to his wife, or vice versa. And we live in a world where nobody's really paying attention to anything anymore. Yeah, hell, Trump's president, for Christ's sakes, and nobody's like paying attention to what the hell he's doing. He's on the golf course more than he's spending time in the office doing anything. And then when he is in the office, he's creating enemies with countries that we've been friends with for years. So, I don't want to know what's going on in him and Melania's relationship, because it probably needs some help.
Oh, man. Yeah.
But so hey, Donald, if you're listening to this and you need a life coach, holler at
your
boy.
guy, right?
I think he needs more than a life coach.
I think he needs a few. I follow a lady, and I think that too, that people forget how to ask, how to even conversate, especially in a world today where we're so focused on other things. We have so many things at our disposal at any given moment in time. And I think that people forget how to conversate. Like I follow a lady, and I'm trying to look up her name right now, but I can't remember her name. But she was walking on the beach with her husband in the morning, and she was just videoing herself and her husband talking. And she said that, and she asked him, she was like, what do you do when you first wake up in the morning, or when you go to the bathroom, and after you've, done all that, what do you do? And he's like, well, I look in the mirror, usually. And she's like, cool. So what do you, when you're looking at the mirror, what do you say to or what do you think about yourself? And he said, well, usually I say to myself, lately I've been saying, I love myself. And just that whole conversation, that's not even a question that I would think to ask anyone. Personally, ask, and it's almost a ridiculous question, but it's so important. And that was a really important moment, and I'm glad that she filmed it, because it was an important moment for everybody to hear, but that was an important moment in their relationship, period. And like, you should be able to ask ridiculous or stupid questions like that to your significant other, and you should be in moments like that where you can ask those questions.
Well, and that's where I think that, like, where I was saying earlier, that you should never stop asking questions. You'll never know the person 150% or anything like that. Like, we'll just do bad math and say 150% because,
right.
But I think the thing is it's like, you're just never going to get to that point. Like, you could ask, and then as you're going through life, your questions become more evolved, I guess, like, because you want to know them on a deeper level, like, okay, so in a reality, men are hunters by nature, right? So like, so I was coaching a client, and they were at the mall, and they had experienced something that like everybody experiences, where their guy is like with them and holding their hand, and an attractive woman walks by, or scantily clad nowadays, and the head starts turning of like, like, so her man starts looking at this other girl. Okay, so part of that is like instinct, but there's an instant where the man knows what he's doing. So after that, it's choice. So if they continue to turn their head and look and completely go all the way around, then obviously, like women they do the same stuff, but they're a little bit more subtle with it. They don't, like men, our whole body is involved in it. It's like, oh, and then and I think like women, they don't do it with their eyes. They give like little subtle cues, and but trust me, I grew up like being like the only guy able to attend like girl talk, and they're just as bad as we are. Like,
man,
yeah, or worse.
Most women I know are worse than men. I've heard guy talk when they're all like in a group just talking and like overheard it. No, women are worse, way worse.
Yeah. And they do the same stuff. They sexually objectify men, but like it's just they do it on the down low versus a man will do it in public, I guess. But
yeah, we do it in safe spaces behind closed doors with just us. We don't, or on TikTok.
Yeah, and you guys get much more detailed than we do too.
Yeah, well,
we're detail oriented. What can I say? Anyway, so I also wanted to talk to you, William, about intuition and how you got on that whole, like, how did you become a psychic, or how did you know that you were psychic in general?
I was born psychic, but one of the key points that I always knew things about people that I shouldn't have known. So I would have, as a kid, I would have what I called psychic Tourette's, because I would just blurt out things that I didn't, and I didn't have a filter, and I didn't have like something to basically tell me, like, I didn't have ethics.
No, because kids don't.
Yeah. So, and so like for me, I was always doing that stuff. And then when I was 7, I had a principal that had passed. Now, I had seen him all day long in school. His name was Mr. Dobus, and I was supposed to be a weed in a play after school. And so we were going to talk about the play and different things like that. And then I think it was about drugs or something. But anyway, so I don't know why in elementary school we were talking about drugs, but
in a play.
So it was like, I think for Dare or something like that. But anyway, it was like we were going to do this play, and then so he just kept telling me, like, don't forget to meet me in my office, whatever. Yeah. So I said, okay, Mr. Dobus' house. So then I went to the office, and the ladies at the office said that he hadn't been there all day. So I argued a little bit because I was a New Yorker and living in Connecticut at the time, so I just didn't have a tolerance for people lying to me. So then I walked to the bottom of the hill where I lived, and then I came back to school the next day, and they announced over the intercom that he had died of a brain aneurysm in his office the day before. So at that point I realized, oh shit, when I'm seeing, other people can't perceive like the same thing that I see, and I had experiences prior to that, but that's probably the most significant. And then
So wait a second. So I didn't catch this before when you told me the story before. So when you went into the office and said, "Is he there?" and they said he wasn't been there all day, he was actually dead in his office.
No, not in his office.
Yeah, well, he had died in his office earlier that day, and the ambulance removed him.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Because he had a brain aneurysm.
Gotcha. Oh, he did die in the office?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. Okay. I thought he like died at home or something.
No. Gotcha. No, in his office.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Some real shit right there.
Right? Oh, real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I asked because I had experiences when I was like 12 or 13 or somewhere in there that scared the shit out of me. And so I decided I wasn't going to acknowledge things like that anymore and kind of shut it off, which I've done multiple times in my brain to multiple different things, and I'm now finding out that that's not fun. And so I'm trying to figure out how to get it back, basically, or how to listen to my intuition more, or whatever the case may be, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible. It never goes. Intuition, everybody has. But not every, I don't believe that people could be trained to be a medium.
No.
But as far as being able to be more intuitive, that can happen. That's just a matter of acknowledging the fact that it happens every day, any damn way. So, and because the more you start to acknowledge it, the more you start seeing it over and over, right? Like, because
Right.
all of a sudden, it goes with anything. Like, the moment you acknowledge something, then it seems to persist, right? So, and then your intuition, women just naturally have it. It never goes away for them. They just might not listen to it.
No, yeah. No, I definitely I didn't listen to it for a very long time, but I when I was between the time that I was like 12 and 14, I definitely shut down a lot of everything that I had, emotion wise, and it had long-term effects that I didn't even realize up until I was an adult. So,
Right.
but it's amazing how you can do that with your brain. You can just decide something and your brain complies. It's nice in some ways.
Well, see, in your brain, you have something called the reticular activating system. So that is like Google for the brain. So when you enter a search term, like, all right, so if say Derek and you are driving in the same town in the same car, right, and you're hungry, and Derek is looking for entertainment, things to do,
right?
Your perception of the town is going to be two totally different things, because what he put in is like he wants to do something. So he starts seeing the billboards or like the signs for like bowling or the movie theater and that type of stuff. And you start seeing all the damn restaurants, right? Like, and so that's the thing.
Damn
so,
restaurants.
and that's I think that's the biggest thing, because all of a sudden, if or like a woman that feels like she's overweight, like we'll go into a grocery store and she'll start seeing weight loss ads, or she'll start seeing like, super skinny models on the cover, or she'll start seeing things to really, find results to the search term that she put in. And I think that most people don't realize that you could use that same thing to reprogram your mind and to reprogram the results that you're getting in life.
Right.
That's what I hope to.
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Well,
every time I talk to you, man.
Well, and that kind of goes back to what he was saying in the beginning of the whole positive negative thing, where you can either view something as positive or view it as a negative. It's just your brain and retraining it.
So one of the, I guess you're right, because like one of the biggest problems I do have is that retraining of the brain, especially for the positivity and negativity.
I think most people do.
Yeah, it's really, really difficult and really, really hard for me to, when I'm in a funk, when I'm in a bipolar state, and it's mind-boggling when I'm in a manic state and I'm go like I was yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, nothing can get in my way. Now, it also, like, as far as my anger goes, like my anger issues, when I'm in a manic state, the littlest things will set me off because I'm still so manic, I can just rage out. But I'm becoming more conscious of that. But when I'm in a depressed state, no matter what I say, I can't get out of it. And that's the part I'm still trying to understand the most is, yeah, I can say all these things. I'm a good person. I know what I'm doing is good. I'm good enough, blah, blah, blah. All these positive reaffirmation stuff.
No, that's not what you do when you're depressed. You don't try to counteract it with, you have to shift your state of mind, right? So either you have to do something that will do an opposite trigger. Like the easiest thing to break you out of depression is if somebody made you laugh or something of that nature, or you can get up and go for a walk, and just by changing your physiology, like it changes your state of being, right? Like it automatically serotonin starts flowing through your blood and you start to change, but like if you're sitting around moping, see, most people put themselves in a depression because of the thoughts they think, But the depression also is the one dependable thing that they have, and it hugs them, right? Like there's a way that they can depend on it, and it's a comfort zone for them. Now, the depression serves a human need, whether that's to feel significant, whether that's to feel loved and appreciated, what it's fulfilling something. So people break depression by realizing what depression actually, is serving for them, and then finding something that can replace it. And and then they don't, because depression's like a figure eight, like, and so you literally put yourself into a state of depression, and you can snap yourself out of it. But the thing is that people don't usually do that, right? Because they've come to love and trust the sort of gentle hug that the depression gives them, that they don't feel like they're getting in the outside world.
So what is your opinion on people who say that if you are depressed or if you're feeling some sort of negative emotion, that there are occasions where you should sit in that emotion and really feel it out and figure out like where it came from and why it's there and what it's doing and things like that?
Yeah, but do so briefly. Shit, who the hell wants to sit in it?
I mean, not like 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I mean, we're sitting, not marinating, and I think the thing is people that naturally are depressed, or, like, are that prone to depression, like to marinate in the depression, right? Like because it's, they get outside attention. People ask like, hey, what's wrong? Are you okay? Blah, 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 blah. That's not exact. Now, some people believe that that's the reason why people put them in itself of depression, because they want attention. That's not it at all. No. In some cases, it might be, but like in a lot of cases, the depression is serving a human need that they feel that they're not getting anywhere else. So they've trained themselves to believe, certain things. And so also the part of it is if you're thinking those thoughts, you automatically know once those start triggering where you're going with it, right? So you have the power to counteract it at that point, but you don't. You follow it down the rabbit hole, and then you wonder, like, why am I so miserable right now? And the thing is it's like, you just have to realize, like, ask yourself questions. I think if you're going to sit in it, ask yourself questions like, but see, you can't sit in it long enough to become depressed.
No, right. But I think there's something to be said for if you are depressed and you sit in it to figure out why, and you sit in it to ask yourself questions, and
but most times in a depressed state, they're not going to be able to get the right answer, because most of the questions that they ask are if they ask like, why do I feel this way? The mind is going to tell them because they're shit, because they can never make anything of themselves, because like it's going to be that negative self-talk. So in a depressed state, you don't want to ask open-ended questions like that. Like you need to figure a way to shift, because before you, now if you're dealing with anger, right, like that's different. You could be angry and be like, okay, why am I angry? What triggered it? What, but that's not the depressed state. Is like, like a self-loathing type state where nobody really wants to, be in it. And it's not meant to. Now, granted, a lot of the depressed thoughts that you have aren't your own. It's things that people have told you in the past that you've owned as your own, or you've heard, whatever. And so you play the record over and over. But, I think, you in certain negative emotions, I guess it's okay to sit in it. But
I sometimes find that it's helpful for me just to ask those questions. I mean, I do it through journaling, or writing them out or typing them out or whatever the case may be. But
well, if Tom Riddle ever responds to you while you're journaling, you just,
right, I'll be the first to tell you. No, but I ask those questions through journaling, and I don't necessarily expect an answer when I do that, though. I just do it to get it out so that I can eventually be able to figure it out. And maybe one day I can even come back to it and already answer it, or have the answer, or whatever the case may be. But if I don't, I feel like personally, if I don't get it out, then it's just ruminating in my head and it's staying there forever, and I'm focusing on it, versus if I just get it out. So, but that's just me.
Derek, you have a question?
No, I'm enjoying this conversation because I mean, you're hitting on a bunch of stuff that is, I mean, especially the stewing in it thing. You know, I stew in it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I allow myself to stew in it. Because
Right.
again, like, and I never even thought about that before. Was the fact that it being that depression is a constant state in my life, it hugs me and it's comfortable there, even though I hate being there.
Right.
And it's like, it's like your mom, it's at Thanksgiving time making a really horrible turkey that's dry as shit that you have to put butter and gravy on and soak it in just to be able to eat it. But, if you ever hang out with a friend later on in life, or your wife, or you go to visit your grandmother or your mom again, and you're 30, 40 years past that, and
Our turkey's not the same.
it's just, but no, it's the same. It's the same dry piece of shit turkey that you've always eaten, when you were with your parents or whatever, and you hate it, but you love it. It's like, because it brings you back, and it's that nostalgic feeling. So like whenever I get in that depressive state, I do have that nostalgic feeling of, oh, this is comfortable, but I still hate it. I would rather have a nice juicy steak and be in a manic state. But instead I'm stuck eating peanut butter and jelly while I'm depressed.
Yeah. And back to our relationship conversation. I mean, I know that I hate admitting it, but one of the reasons that in the beginning of my relationship with my husband that I was able to stay for so long was because my parents were in a tumultuous relationship where they argued constantly. And that's what's comfortable for me because I know how to handle it because I've been dealing with it my whole life. And it sucks. I hated it when I was in it. I didn't like it, but subconsciously, that is what's comfortable for me, or was. So it sucks, man.
Well, yeah, but whether it's comfortable, I mean, it's just what you knew was a normal, and so because I guarantee as a kid watching it, it wasn't comfortable for you to watch your parents in that situation, and it wasn't comfortable when they got divorced, right? Like you felt like they could have done more, right? Like, so none of it was comfortable.
Right.
But the problem is it became what was normal for you and what was acceptable in your mind.
Right.
As far as like, this is how a relationship is supposed to be. And so then when it started to appear in your relationship, you started to go, okay, well, this is just kind of what it's supposed to be like. But the thing is that's not it. And the biggest relationship that we can have is with ourselves first.
Right.
And the problem is people enter into relationships when they don't truly love who they are. And they expect the other person to somehow fulfill a need, like fill a void or do something. That's not what relationships are meant to do, right? Like, you're meant to walk side by side with somebody and share the experience of life with somebody, but they're not there to like make you feel better about yourself. Like, they may do that naturally, but like, you shouldn't look into a relationship and be like, hey, this is what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Are you reading me right now? Because that's exactly what the fuck I do, and you know it.
Do what? What happened now?
I said, are you reading me right now? Because that's exactly how my life has been up to until the point where I met my current wife, and I always did that. Whenever I was in a bad,
we're all young, I think.
But I was always a serial monogamist. You know what I'm saying? If I wasn't in a relationship, I was always seeking that next one out to help me feel better. And it's taken me a long time to realize that no one person is going to make me feel good about myself. The only person that can make me happy truly is myself.
You got to be your own biggest fan.
Well, yeah, and now. Here, like, the thing is like, people always are quoting the Bible at me.
Yeah.
So there's that. But I think the thing is like, from a metaphysical standpoint, when like when they say that the cup runneth over, like, look, if you fill your well so much, right? Like, if you fill yourself up with so much love about yourself, now, not to go into ego, but it's going to like runneth over, like, and then you're going to have more of that to be able to share or give to others, or it's just naturally going to touch the people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis. But the first thing is to not seek, internal happiness in the external world. That's the biggest key. That's always, I think happening. So, and there was a quote on a show. Derek, you might have watched Highlander when you were younger.
Yep.
Well, in Highlander, there was a quote that said, "Your camera sees what you want it to see. You could shoot garbage or flowers, hope or despair. It all depends where you want to spend your life." And later, when I became a photographer, I wasn't thinking about it in a sort of an esoteric kind of way, but I liked the quote. But now I totally understand the quote because I see how people are, creating things in a different way, and they're choosing to shoot hope and despair. But I think the thing is it's like we live in a world where we're constantly being fed misinformation, right? Like, so from the media, where people are looking not just to their spouse to tell them how they should feel about themselves, but they're looking to the news. They're looking to, I mean, I haven't worn okay, maybe a couple of times I wore a mask, but most of the time I'm a rebel. The other day I was in the grocery store and I didn't have a mask on, and this old lady said, "You're not wearing a mask?" So then she takes off her mask and she says, "I'm taking this off and I'm getting rid of this because I can't even breathe through it." And I was like, well, you see, freedom, and I felt like William Wallace in that moment, like I freed somebody. But, it was like, I think the thing is like, people buy into things really easy, like this COVID thing, it drives me bananas. It's what that does. Like, I look at it and I say, okay, first off, the death toll is inflated. Everybody knows the death toll is. There's people that have been cured, like I think it's like 137% more than that have died. So have actually been cured from COVID or healed from it or whatever. And the CDC just released that 94% of what was the statistic? It was something interesting. Let me find it. If I could find it in my phone. But anyway, yeah. Let's see.
But I mean, all of that, the 94% cured of COVID, that makes sense because we were told in the beginning that the death rate is only like 3% or 1.3% or something like that, wasn't it?
It's well, yeah, but we're like, here's the issue. America's the only one stuck on stupid in this COVID thing. Like, everybody else has, for by and large, handled it within like a month or month and a half or whatever. Like, it didn't last that long. But I think
Belgium didn't. The UK didn't. I mean, they're still fighting it. They're in the UK, especially. They're doing the same thing we're doing.
Yeah, but not necessarily. Like, okay, so it said 94% of Americans who died from COVID-19 had a contributing condition, and that's like from the CDC.
Oh, so, which makes sense because we were told in the beginning that it more aggressively affects people who do have underlying conditions.
Well, yeah, but that's like I did a Facebook Live and somebody said, well, like, it's affecting old people. And I'm like, look, the elderly are affected by the common cold. Common cold could turn into pneumonia, which could kill them, right? So, like, there are people that are going to be susceptible to stuff. But here's the thing. COVID has killed far less than like the swine flu or the avian flu or one of them fucking things that we had a few years back. And the thing is it's like, we didn't shut down the government for 8 months. Like, we didn't like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, obviously, because we're told initially, like, okay, quarantine for 2 weeks. Right. But now this 8 months of bullshit going on. The New England Journal of Medicine says that, like, COVID requires two things. One, close proximity, and it requires a prolonged exposure. So the thing is like, in this situation, if you're running in and you're getting something out of the grocery store, you don't have close proximity to anybody because you're supposed to be doing this 6 feet apart bullshit. But that, but you have to. This is why, like, when people were doing the COVID parties, people got COVID. Obviously, you know, named a party after it. Dumbasses. What did you think you were manifesting? So the thing is it's like, you know, but because you're having prolonged exposure, or, you know, sex obviously could, you know, like if somebody had
exchange of fluids generally causes stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously you're kissing, not necessarily as COVID isn't an STD. There is somebody saying that it is, but it isn't. But, you know, like the common cold could be spread through sex, but it's not an STD. You know, so it's you know, and so that's the thing, is it's like, I think if people look at it from a more common sense and logical perspective, you know, the other thing is when people have a mask, what do? They pull the mask down, you know, they're constantly, so they put their fingers on the inside of the mask. So now they've gone and touched everything. Then they go do this and they're adjusting the mask, and then they pull the mask back up. So now they're incubating potentially the virus on the inside of their mask and directly breathing it in, you know, not to mention that the CO2 that we breathe out cannot fully escape that mask, which is why people are getting lightheaded when they're wandering around in the store. And the elderly surely are doing that, which is why when you have a breathing issue, you're not supposed to, you know, wear a mask. I don't put on a damn mask because I got this constant chronic stuffy nose. So I need to breathe out of someplace. If it's not my mouth, I'm dying because I can't breathe out my ears yet. So
that's because you need to quit smoking.
Yeah, well, I had this stuffy nose before smoking, but I had done some other stuff that bothered the nasal passages.
Mm-hmm.
We won't say that is, but we know what it is.
Do you live in California?
Where am I now?
Yeah.
I'm on the West Coast. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I wondered if maybe the fires were bothering you.
Oh no! Well, no, there's fires everywhere, but fires is a normal thing. I used to be able to smell really well. Now I can't. I hope it comes back, because when you don't have your nose, then your taste buds suffer.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, like, so, like, even eating regular food, and you're like, I don't know, you know. So sometimes it's not as enjoyable. And I went to culinary school, but, you know, what the hell? Now I'm stuck smoking menthols because I taste, yeah, Newports, baby.
Not a sponsor.
Gross. Menthols are the worst. I used to smoke. I don't anymore, but I used to.
But it's the only,
I love smoking.
It's the only cigarette that I could, like. People are like, well, Newport's like a badass cigarette, and I'm like, no, I don't know if it's bad. I just don't like the taste of any other cigarette.
Right.
You know, like some of them, people have like bought like these really cheapo ones, and then I feel like I'm smoking air. You know, and I'm like, the hell, you know. And then Marlboros, I just like, I don't mind, but they're just, I don't like the flavor or the aftertaste. Whereas the menthol I kind of like, but I don't like other version of menthol though. Like there's the ones that you have to push the little button before the filter, and then it does like the
crush.
Yeah,
those are Camels.
Yeah. But what did you smoke when you smoked, Derek?
Marlboro menthol lights.
Yeah, see, lights.
That's what I smoked.
Yeah, see,
Marlboro was the best.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I'm not addicted to the smoking. I'm addicted to the conversation that's surrounded around smoking. Like, it gets me outside to do things, especially in today's day and age. You know, where I feel like I'm locked in, and I'm cranking out content. I'm doing stuff, but it's like, it's just a pain in the butt, I think. So I think addiction is a lot, like 99.9% mental.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah, we've had that conversation. Oh yeah.
Right.
You know, so
we did 2 weeks of nothing but addiction talk on the show.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we did one episode on nothing but drugs and stuff like that, and then we did a whole episode on sex, which was
that was interesting.
Oh my god.
Fond memories, huh? Good
Oh
time.
yeah,
Good time.
the sex addiction episode was a fun one. Let me tell you.
Right. Anywho.
Yeah. Dude.
So, real quick, have you gotten anything on either of us since we've been here today?
Oh, probably.
You just ignore it?
Yeah. I don't look unless I'm in the process of doing a reading. I don't ordinarily pay attention to the information that comes to me because it's not usually my spot to like just blurt out information anymore. But
I think it's fun when people do that.
Yeah, well, that's reality TV. You tune in there.
Yeah.
But what were we gonna say?
Oh no, go on.
No, I was just gonna feed off of what you just said. But go ahead. What were we
No, go ahead, Derek.
I got nothing, to be honest with you.
You said you were gonna say something.
He said, "I got nothing."
What's happening?
He just was saying,
Yeah.
And here I thought I was being rescued. They're
Rescued.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But no, I think I think life is interesting. I definitely know that. But I think the biggest thing is we live in a society where like everybody likes labeling everything. Like everything has a label. Like you got ADHD, you got Asperger's, then there's degree of fucking autism. And it's like when I was a kid, they weren't diagnosing autistic children, right? Like I probably would have been diagnosed autistic. My daughter's autistic, but like, the thing is it's just like it's a weird situation where everything needs to have a label. And I'm sure if you looked in the psychology journals and definitions and stuff, like we all have multiple aspects of something that could be diagnosed from a psychological standpoint. I say fuck it. Like that's my motto. I don't subscribe to any belief system like or any label or anything like that. Like you're not putting me in a damn box. One, I'm too damn big. I'll just break out of it. And two, it's like I feel like when you start subscribing to that stuff, it limits your potential or what you believe your potential is. And so if you start limiting your belief on your potential, then you start limiting your potential, and then you don't strive for your ultimate self. Like you don't try to become better because you feel like it's never going, like you feel like it's out of your reach and it's never going to be attainable, or it's not for you. Success is a state of mind. That's
interesting that you bring up that particular label because thanks. It's I know some people struggle with labels like that, but also like, for instance, my husband and again, interesting that you bring up that particular label, but last year, my husband and I just figured out, I guess, that he's somewhere on the Asperger's autism spectrum. But when we figured that out for him, that helped both of us immensely to, I guess, kind of see that there were other people who deal with those exact same things, and that maybe he's not necessarily like I don't know if it helped him feel like there was nothing wrong with him. Whereas if you don't have a label for things, sometimes it can make you feel like you're an outcast or like there is something wrong with you. Whereas if you have a label, sometimes you can feel like you're a part of a group that also deals with those same things. You know what I mean? No, you don't.
No, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but no, I think the thing is like, here's the group that we all belong to, humanity, right? Like, and so outside of that, like, there should be no reason to separate or segregate or divide. I feel like labels cause division, right? Like, I'm a Christian. I'm not a Christian. I wouldn't fucking be a Christian. No, that's not me. But the thing is, it's like people that are Christian are like hell bent on that.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it's like, then you have the Jewish people, and then and you have all the, so then you have religion, and then you have mental health labels, then you have drug shit that goes on, then you have, and the reason why is because it just creates this huge divide within humanity. Like if we were to accept each other, regardless of what oddities or differences that each other have, the world would be a far better place. But if because we weren't supposed to evolve into ego as much as we are now, but that's just, but to go into ego is choice.
Right. So what would happen in a society like that to people like Hannibal Lecter?
Hannibal Lecter ain't real.
Well,
number one,
people, sociopaths, or people who enjoy killing other human beings, like.
Yeah, but okay. Look, that should happen every day, any damn way, right? Like, so the thing is like that is going to happen regardless, because there's nothing that you're going to do. Like the mental health community can't like take like a Charlie Manson and and he's dead now, but
Right.
The thing is like they couldn't fix him, so they locked him up. Because obviously there's things like that, like where you're prone to that type of violence. We're not talking about that. We're because obviously that is a deeply embedded psychological trigger that happens where they have a need to kill and that they're unemotional, right? But like, so like I'm a therapist friend, and like one of the things that she's always told me is that I could have become like them, right? Because of how I've consistently been shit on from humanity, and I constantly get like stabbed in the back from people I trust. And so like, and just by my upbringing, it matches, like it all aligns with what like a serial killer would have in their past,
right?
Bedwetting, all that good stuff, right? But like, molestation, all that stuff. But the thing is I didn't do it, right? So which is why she said that like I'm like a psychological enigma, like I defy modern psychology. So so for me, I could have gone in that route. I mean, I sure the hell had a lot of anger at some point,
right?
And I wasn't always a angel or a good person or anything,
right? No,
but
of course.
like I think that we all do stupid shit, right? But and I had even to the point of having a curiosity of dead animals in the woods and stuff. Like, I mean, I was always fascinated by that stuff, and actually, I wanted to be a criminal profiler for the FBI, and then subsequently worked with some of them. But like, so it's just interesting. But I think there's a difference between like being diagnosed as autistic or on being the Asperger spectrum or whatever than like being compared to Hannibal Lecter, for Christ's sakes. I think
right.
I think that's like a huge jump. I mean, he was a cannibal, but
no, yeah. Well, so the reason I bring up the two drastic things is because I was just having a conversation with my mother yesterday about how when my husband and I, for many years, while my husband and I were together, I believed and thought that he had a narcissistic personality disorder because of his lack of ability to empathize with people in general, and his lack of social skills in general. But then in the last year, like I said, we just figured out that it's most likely actually autism or Asperger's, somewhere on that spectrum. But and she was asking me what the difference would be in those cases. And I said the biggest difference that I can personally see in him is that he has the ability to empathize with people who have gone through things that he has been through. He doesn't have the ability to empathize with people of who go through things that he hasn't been through and therefore doesn't already understand. Whereas I believe like a person with narcissistic personality disorder can't empathize with anybody, period. Like they just genuinely don't give a shit about people at all.
Brother.
Yeah.
Really. So in the case of like, for instance, like that, I think
they care
where,
about themselves. The narcissist cares about themselves, but
right? But like nobody else.
Well,
right?
Yeah, most of the part. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I mean, for us, that label, quote unquote, helped us to understand the difference in that, because otherwise, I would have gone forth trying to figure out how to fix a narcissist, and that's harder to do. Not that I'm trying to fix him anymore, but at the time I was. So, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Anywho. But I don't think your brother has the inability to empathize with anyone.
Well, I mean, he's diagnosed as a narcissist, and he even said it himself, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was.
I know he said it, but I saw a lot of empathy in our conversation from him.
Again, he puts on a front. He even said it himself. He fakes it.
He's able to, yeah. But narcissists generally don't try to fake it because they don't even care enough to fake it. Like that's why.
But there's degrees of narcissism, right? Like some of them are, more or less trying to control others because that's part of what makes them feel powerful, right? So it's so obviously if they can fake empathy or sympathy, then clearly they want to come across as normal. But to the people that truly know the narcissist, like they're a totally different person. Right, but they want to be accepted by people. That's,
Well, it's more. It's about because therefore, they can, especially the ones that are know about their narcissism, use it
to their advantage.
To their advantage in a way to where they can be a part of manipulate and be a part of society. Otherwise, they're just going to sit in a corner and try to be frickin' Homelander from The Boys. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
That guy.
Somebody said, "Can they help getting out of that though? You can't train actual empathy." Psychology. I think the general consensus in psychology is that empathy can't be retrained, but I wholeheartedly disagree. I think that it's a part of your brain, and any part. I believe any part of your brain can be retrained if you want it to be, but a lot of the problem with a lot of narcissists is that they have a hard time asking for help. And by hard time, I mean they refuse. So I think it can be. I just think that they have to be in a position where they want it, and not a lot of narcissists want it. Which is another reason why your brother is so interesting to me personally, just because he goes and gets help and wanted it at some point because he is on medication and worked for a very long time with his doctors to be able to be in a better state for himself, which is.
I think he did it more for his kids.
Yeah. Which, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a good reason to do anything. But, anywho. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we have now been on for an hour and 45 minutes.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Man, talking with you, man, it seems always so easy.
What? Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I get so much out of talking to you. I really do. Every time I talk to you, I feel or change my way of thinking in some which way, shape, or form, and it's always. I'm so glad that we've become friends, bud.
No.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a coast to coast hug here.
Oh, wonderful.
Group hugs.
No, and I mean that sincerely. And we talked about this before. When you first came on, I was skeptical of you, and skeptical of everyone like you, and but you're so genuine and so real, and everything that you've said, is very, very true to me, and and you've gone out of your way to you send me daily, almost, not all the time, but he'll just send me random daily affirmations and just things to think about and stuff like. And it's like, it's always when I need it the most, and it's almost like you. And that's one of the biggest things.
It's almost like I'm psychic.
Right.
Almost.
That's because I'm
psychic. I know, but it's like damn. And it's like, because it's like, you don't have to do that. Our conversation could have ended that day, on that Wednesday, but it's continued on. You've offered, some help for me, and you've gone out of your way to do all these things for me, and I cannot appreciate you enough, and I'll be honest with you on that. I mean, it's I'm, like I said, I'm glad that we've built this friendship, and you're helping me, and
yeah,
you're doing these cool things, man. It's awesome.
That's okay. The bill's in the mail, so.
I was gonna say, like, that should take energy and time. Like, good on you, man, because not a lot of people would.
No, I mean, you're just a cool dude, and so where can people find you at again?
What the hell knows? Oh, a bunch of type in William Constantine into Google, and I'll pull up.
Yeah, I mean, everything comes up for you there. I mean, you can follow him on Instagram at WM Constantine, and everywhere else. Just go to his website.
PsychicWilliamConstantine.com is that site, and then there's the photography site. There's lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff out there about you, man. But dude, I can't appreciate you enough for everything, and that's the honest to God truth.
Oh, I appreciate it. Well, thanks for having me on, guys.
Hey,
Absolutely.
no problem.
Thanks for talking with us today. Appreciate
but
it.
you and I will talk again within the next couple of days. You think, right?
Yeah, because I got to work on the kit.
Yeah. But we'll talk soon. And again, I appreciate you very, very much, and thank you very much for being here today.
All right, thank you.
Hey, no problem. Thank you. Have a good one. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Kat, that was probably one of our best episodes.
Oh man, that went deep on a lot of shit.
It went deep on a lot of shit and went all over the place. And God, I love doing this show with you.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really do.
I love doing it with you.
Thank you, and I love you.
I know, I love you too.
So tonight, everyone come back.
You, Adrian.
Everyone come back tonight, 8 p.m. East, 5 p.m. West. Tonight I have a paranormal investigator, actress, and she has her own comic book. I'm going to murder her name is Calderosha Ona Carroll. She just goes by K.O. But it's going to be an interesting conversation. She's been in a shit ton of movies, like over 100 movies. She works with Ghost Hunters International and Ghost Hunters Celebrity Ghost Hunters and a bunch of other stuff. She's all over the place, so that'll be a fun conversation to have tonight. I think it's Calderosha Ona. It's on my my YouTube page and on my Instagram at Suck It Podcast. But be a really fun conversation. So please come back tonight for a new week of Suck It Podcast. Did the Teachable Soul release a new episode today?
Yes, actually they did. That's why I said it was super funny that William brought up the whole autism thing, because it's actually the episode of me and my husband talking to someone from the Asperger's Autism Network, Grace Myhill, and it's a super interesting episode. It's a super personal episode. My husband and I really kind of opened up and talked about a lot of the reasons that we had issues in the beginning. And, like I said to William, I mean, finding out that he was on the spectrum was super helpful for us to just identify what some of the causes of our issues were. Yeah. And a lot of it was communication, like most relationships. And part of that was because he has a hard time communicating as a person on the spectrum. So the episode today that just went out was,
that's actually kind of funny as well, because tomorrow night on Suck It Podcast at 8 p.m. East, 5 p.m. West. Mm-hmm. I actually have the bassist for 80s metal band Rex Nova on. His name is Kenny Wilkerson, and he has a son who has Asperger's. And he actually just released back in May a cookbook written by a bunch of heavy metal guys, everyone from Ozzy Osbourne and more.
Oh, that's awesome.
And all the proceeds actually go to help fight autism and Asperger's. So, to raise money, support, Okay. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's actually kind of interesting as well, because I'm doing that episode tomorrow night. as well. So for those of you all who are the first time watchers here, we both do 2 separate podcasts and we come together every week to do this show.
Yeah, on Mondays.
So Suck It Podcast is basically it's a podcast where I basically tell anyone who ever told me to suck it up in life and just bury my my mental health disorder, for me to tell them to suck it and tell the world to just suck it. Because that's what this whole thing is about. So Suck It Podcast is about that, about bringing on celebrities who deal with mental health issues, whether it be autism or depression or even just grief, and letting everybody know that celebrities are just like us, and it gives them an opportunity to know that they're not alone in the world. So I do that Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. East, 5 p.m. West, like I've said 50 times already. And then she does her, Teachable Soul podcast to let everybody know that, the soul can be retrained. The soul can be taught to love and so on and so forth. And because everyone is a teachable soul. And that's what her old idea behind her podcast is. So we do this together every week to talk directly about mental health. We don't always have a guest on, but it's just an opportunity to really let people know that they're not alone. And then at Suck It Podcast, I do it with celebrity and have a little bit of fun with it in the process. So please join us, either way. You can search her podcast on iHeartRadio, everywhere.
No.
You're not on iHeart?
No, yeah.
Oh, you are on iHeart. Okay.
Everywhere.
So iHeart, Apple, Google.
Pandora.
Yeah. So same thing with mine.
Pandora.
Same thing with mine. I'm not available anywhere, but I do it live 5 nights a week right here. Or 6 days, 6 nights, 6 episodes, this, and then 5 Suck It Podcast. So that's very complicated. But, so please come back tonight, for that, my episode with Katarosha, Ona, Carol, or just KO. But,
she's a knockout.
Yeah.
Sorry,
and then tomorrow night, the basis for Rex Nova, Kenny Wilkerson, who's released a book, cookbook to raise proceeds for autism.
Do you know what organization exactly it is by chance?
I'd have to look it up again.
What's his name again? I'm sorry.
Kenny Wilkerson.
Kenny Wilkerson cookbook.
Yep.
Rockin' Recipes for Autism is the name of the book.
It's Rocking for Autism or something like that, I think is what it was called.
We Rock for Autism.
We Rock for Autism. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
cool.
So it's gonna be a cool interview tomorrow. And then I got a bunch of cool stuff the rest of the week. But come back tonight if you wish. Otherwise, it'll be available on demand at all times. But either way, we love and appreciate everybody who is here today. Kat, I love you very, very much.
I love you too, boo.
And we will talk again soon. But until tonight, see you guys later. Otherwise, we'll see you next Monday at 12 noon East, 9 a.m. West. Until then, love you guys. Bye.
Peace.